Right. Welcome to the Sweet 16 round of the Georgia Farm Bureau Federation Young Farmers and Ranchers Discussion Meeting. I am Caitlin Marchant, the Georgia Farm Bureau YFR State Committee from Oglethorpe County. I will be serving as your moderator and room host for this round. At this time, out of respect for all of the competitors, please turn off your cell phones and all other electronic devices. Also, please keep distractions as minimal as possible to allow for full concentration by the competitors. In the event of continual distractions, it may be necessary as room chair to ask you to leave. At this time, we would like to invite anyone who will be taking photographs during the competition to sit in the reserved front row. Serving as timekeeper for this round is Caleb Marchant of Oglethorpe County. The top 16 competitors were selected for this round by using the competitors' cumulative rankings from round 1 and 2. Based solely on the scoring from this round, the winner of each discussion will advance to the final four. The judges, timekeeper, and competitors have been briefed as to the rules of the competition. Competitors, please come and take your places up front. Now that all competitors have been seated, writing is allowed. As mentioned, the competitors have been briefed on the competition and realized that their general discussion should be directed towards each other rather than the audience. In my role as moderator, I will not attempt to control or direct this discussion. Remember, the discussion is meant to resemble a committee meeting with the end goal of determining possible solutions to the question at hand. This is not a panel discussion with point, counterpoint, and an active moderator. As such, I will not intervene unless or until disparaging or inappropriate remarks are made. With that in mind, the burden is on the competitors to moderate themselves and conduct themselves in a cooperative and congenial manner. The question for this round is, what is sustainable agriculture and how can Farm Bureau help farmers and ranchers access market-based solutions that advance sustainability goals without restricting their ability to stock America's pantries, help feed a growing population, and maintain farm profitability? The competitors for this round are Tori Reed, Darren Seidel, Heather Cave, and Hannah Williams. We will begin this discussion with 30-second opening statements from each competitor. Following the opening statements will be 25 minutes of open discussion, followed by 1 minute of quiet time for the competitors to prepare their 1-minute closing statements. Official time is kept by the timekeeper. Competitors, in voluntary order, make your 30-second opening statements. Please stand and direct your opening statements to the audience. The timer will indicate when your 30 seconds have elapsed by holding up a red card. You may begin.
130,000 farms across the nation use renewable energy. Today, I look forward to discussing how Farm Bureau can increase that number and have it last for the years to come. I look forward to our discussion today. Sustainable ag, market-based solutions, feeding a growing population, and remaining profitable. Stop, collaborate, listen. We're all here for Farm Bureau's mission. It's time for us today to get down to the nitty-gritty of what really is sustainable ag, how we make changes on the farm, and how Farm Bureau can help us do it.
One of the most innovative group of people in this world is truly farmers and ranchers. Sustainable ag has always been in the forefront of their minds. We have goals across the board. Sustainability means something different to everybody. I look forward to discussing this group, truly what sustainable ag is, and goals that Farm Bureau can utilize today from a unique perspective to be able to go forth in the future, serve our future generations to come from an agricultural standpoint.
As agriculturalists, we are the original stewards of the land. The way we use our resources is imperative to our success, not only as individuals, but our success in feeding the world. I look forward to our discussion today and how we as Farm Bureau members can help our community and our farmers do better in their sustainability practices.
You have heard the opening statements. The competitors may now proceed with the discussion. Competitors, please direct your discussion to your fellow panel members.
Good morning, ladies. I envisioned myself right after this question was asked right here in this chair when it was announced yesterday at lunch. But before I feel like as a group we can fully dive in what sustainable ag is for Georgia Farm Bureau, Can we go around as a group and kind of identify what truly sustainability is to each and every one of us?
I really like that. Really and truly, in my opinion at least, sustainability is using the resources we have to the best and fullest. I know specifically I raise beef cattle, and one thing we're always looking towards to increase our sustainability is actually improving our genetics in which we raise our cattle. So that way we're getting the best yield, the best profits off of the fewest amount of cattle and resources.
I agree with that. Where I come from, it is more about a shorter list of what sustainability is not. It's not something that's a short-term decision. It's not something that's a one-time decision. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's different for every operation, and what works for yours may not work for mine. But what we all have to consider is that, especially as a parent, when I look in the back seat, or when I look at the young people in this convention, that's what sustainable agriculture is. Preparing for the decisions that we make today to what the ripple effect will cause 20, 50 years from now. And so sustainability is predominantly focused on our farm for the future.
I love how you brought up the younger generation. For me, just graduating high school a year ago, I look at how life has changed just in the short amount of time that I've been here. And then I look back at the research that's been done when we go back to when plows and tractors were first invented. And one thing that sticks out to me is the price of a lot of the sustainable technology. You know, we sit here and we say we need to have renewable resources, but a lot of people can't sustain and can't provide those renewable machinery or technology, biotechnology that's needed in order to do that. So when I look at sustainable, I agree completely with what you said, that, you know, it's different for every operation. However, we all need to work together to make sure there is that future in agriculture, especially as the population grows exponentially.
I really like that. You mentioned saying that how the tractors and equipment going from plows to tractors and so forth. There was an interesting statistic brought up in one of my classes this past year at ABAC, saying if you brought a farmer from revolutionary times to say the year 1910, they'd recognize most of the things that you use on the farm. But if you brought someone from 1910 to now, they wouldn't know how anything is even work, which is really attesting to our ability as agriculturalists to innovate and improve. So there's definitely ways that we can tackle sustainability issues with what we've got for the people and the mindset we have.
Sure, there, you give us some insight on what sustainability means to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Heather, because I think one thing that's a beautiful, just kind of whirlwind thing that we just discussed right here, that's at the center of it, that Farm Bureau can take home today. Sustainability is driven by people, whether that's for the future, that's currently what we have sustainable right now. But if we look at every day, everybody's getting older. The current generation of farmers are up there in age. First generation farmers coming around for the next generation to take over that operation. Sustainability can be envisioned through the ideas for Georgia Farm Bureau to actually give benefits towards that next generation to come up. Sustainability, I think, as a whole, we don't necessarily think of as people. We may think of it as policy, something as far as, I don't know of one farmer or rancher that doesn't want to be a good steward of the land. Envision their practices sustainable, but the next generation to come up, the future to feed America, really depends on the people that are providing those practices. How can Georgia Farm Bureau work today to do that? I think one implementation I can come from a personal standpoint. I'm going to sit in and hopefully be one of the first young farmers and ranchers chairs within my county. I don't think there's something in place as far as the training. So how can I implement strategies, hopefully through a training process that Georgia Farm Bureau can wrap its arms around me to hopefully deliver proper young farmers and ranchers practices at my county. That in itself becomes sustainable.
You know, one thing that you mentioned, you were talking about the aging generation of farmers. If you look up the statistics right now, the average age of American farmers is 63. When you take that into perspective, that adds a whole other realm to it, because now Farm Bureau is not only targeting the younger generation that is equipped with technology that's in their everyday lives, but now they're having to make sure that the older generations are also equipped with that same technology, and they have to make it in a way that everyone can understand it, not the highest educated only. And you know, one thing that I think that Farm Bureau could do an excellent job at is when I was looking at the Zoom women's series that Farm Bureau put on earlier in last month, I believe. And you know, they have the Zoom series, and I think about that because my grandparents struggle to use Zoom sometimes. So, I think that Farm Bureau, if there was a way, whether that be putting a tab on their website of just videos that are simple to where anyone can understand, not just the people who are in it every day, but to where anyone who wants to have a garden in their backyard can do it sustainably. Because a lot of the time, people, when they're first starting out, they want to go straight to organic. Okay, realistically, that's amazing. I'm glad that you're starting, but at the same time, we have to teach you the correct way to do it because that land is needed for years to come.
Sure, I think that that brings up a really great point, Tori, that when we're talking about going into education, whether it is our whole group that we're trying to work with here, and I think that, you know, our marketing team has leveled up within the last couple of years at really trying to bring farming just down to that simplistic level, to where it's easy for not only the older farmers to understand, the young farmers, even our legislators to really dive in there and understand the simplicity of it. Darren, going back to something you were saying about really just giving that introductory session to be in your new YFR chair, to getting involved. GFB actually does a 101 session called GFB 101. They do it in the summertime usually, and it really focuses on what is Georgia Farm Bureau. How can I best utilize this opportunity? And they give you that deep dive within the organization, and then a little bit on the public policy level. So you really get sort of a broad range spectrum of what am I supposed to be doing here and how can we progress it forward. One thing that I would like us to take this conversation towards is really diving into the question. So I think the question gives us almost like a chain of events. So we're talking about sustainable agriculture, we defined that. But it also talks about market-based solutions. And I think that that is such a good point here in this conversation, because without those market-based solutions, we can't be profitable. And without being profitable, we can't be sustainable. So I would like for us to just maybe address like a creative market-based solution, maybe that you've used on your operation or you know from your county that we could implement into GFB.
I agree with that, because if we can't be sustainable and help our farmers be sustainable economically, how are they going to be sustainable environmentally? One thing that I remember studying going through economically for one of my classes this past year was that specifically in this, a lot of farmers who are in our older age range don't have heirs to their farms and don't have people who are willing to take over the operation once they've passed. I believe in the state of Iowa alone, over half of their farmers do not have somebody who is willing to take over the operation afterwards. And agriculture in general, not even just farming or certain practices, has such a high entry level financially, because you have to buy the land, equipment, if you're doing livestock, you have to buy your basic starting breed and heifers. And all of those add up to an enormous amount of entry level cost. So maybe that's something we can work towards finding, because if we're able to help our farmers financially, then we can go on into what they could do economically sustainable environmental practices that they can use, because it's easier to start being sustainable when you started that from the beginning. That's right. Sure.
And great points. To your point, Heather, really focusing in on the question as it pertains to marketing. I don't think every farmer and rancher has an answer for how to market correctly, but Georgia Farm Bureau can come today with the resources within the marketing teams that they do have. Work on a marketing mentor program that can deliver market-based solutions that can cater to each individual operation. Georgia agriculture is so unique, from all the way to the mountains to the south part of the state. Not every agricultural producer of whatever crop, livestock product that you may be using would need the same market-based solution. So having an opportunity to develop a marketing mentor program that Georgia Farm Bureau can bring to solutions for an individual operation could be a market-based solution they want today. What is it?
I really like that idea. And I come from the mountains. And I'm able to see, we have everything. We have love apple and chicken producers. That's our highest point. However, we now have a mushroom producer. And that was something brand new to our community. We had never seen that. So our Farm Bureau then had to go in and welcome them to the community and let them know, what Farm Bureau can do for them. So when we were going over that, they did have some questions about sustainability. They were like, we're doing this, but we feel like we're wasting a lot of money. Where can you help us at? Mm-hmm. And coming from someone that has never seen a mushroom production, I was honestly clueless. I was like, I don't know what the market-based solutions would be for a mushroom production. Mm-hmm. We've seen the wineries, we've seen the apple orchards with the new weather station. However, a new weather station is not really gonna help much in a greenhouse. So, one of the things that we had to do was kind of do some research in that, and I think that's one thing that Farm Bureau could also include with maybe the marketing mentorship program is stuff for diverse agriculture. You know, we want to welcome everyone in agriculture in, and that is one thing that I feel like maybe if there was a diverse agriculture sector and they had people that were willing to sit there and research for this commodity, you know, even though it's not a big commodity in Georgia right now, where are they gonna come in at and who is going to help them? And I think that is something that Farm Bureau could have a major play in, and the more we welcome people in, the more that's gonna benefit agriculture as a whole.
I really like that, when you're talking about just your local, going back to where you're talking about your local, Farm Bureau going to these producers and helping them out. But one thing, talking about saying, trying to find ways for them to, help people in all types of agriculture, all the diverse sectors we have. I believe the American Farm Bureau has, positions and policy talking about that. From when I was researching, I know they have positions on environmental stewardship and conservationship. So maybe in a way, we could also go up to our national level and see if maybe they have some solutions that would help us out.
I think that a great way to target exactly what you're talking about is a deep dive into our commodity advisory committee. Because they do specifically group around what commodities they produce, and they can form relationships within those different sectors to help those people that are newly starting out. If I were to go back to what I believe about the market-based solution is within Georgia Farm Bureau, we have an extreme partnership with Ford Motor Company. And I don't know if you all are familiar with this, but every Ford vehicle that's produced in North America contains soybeans. Those soybean products, the soybeans that are used, they use their byproducts. It's the waste. It's what would have went in the trash. They're in the seed foam. They also use tomato seeds and recycled money to build the trays that coins go in, or the trays that are on the side of the door. It's waste. But yet the farmer makes money off of what he's going to throw in the trash can. And Ford Motor Company is able to stay clean and to make money still off of their product. And so I think that's what market-based solutions really are. It's taking something that you weren't able to make money off of, being able to pivot and utilize that and make a profit for your farm. That feeds directly into remaining profitable and then staying sustainable.
You know, on that point, our local apple producers do that. They take, when they're making their apple cider, which is a huge hit among tourists in locals, I will say, but they take the waste, the apples that would have been thrown out, they make those into the apple cider. The apple cider is then used in the donuts, the bread, the slushies. Like, you know, that waste is then being turned back in. And I think that is a major step in sustainability, because just like you said, that's something that they were going to throw away. So I feel like if we as Farm Bureau could help many farmers of all different variations look at their waste and say, okay, this is what you're wasting, but these people are going to use that. And figure out a way just to connect them with maybe a retailer such as Ford, who could then use that material. So then everybody again will be making money off of it, but it's not just going to waste.
Corey and Heather, y'all are working this pot still. Everything's kind of coming together. We think about this, your commodity advisory board, along with the sustainability chair implemented within it, to have strategic measures that take all those waste products that may be kind of integrated into those commodities, have a chair that establishes some goals within those commodity advisory committees that allows for that particular thing is what we're trying to answer here today, sustainability in agriculture, and then the marketing solutions to it. Having a chair within those committees that actually can go to the table, connect people to for other commodities, not just soybeans, but byproducts on the cattle side. Hopefully that we can be more efficient for future generations to come.
I really like the idea of having a commodity chair, but I know we'll say by using byproducts, there are sometimes a lot of sometimes some of these industries get bad raps, they use the byproducts. I know specifically the rendering industry with beef. If I talk about using the rendering industry and beef, talking about all the parts that aren't used, like say you're talking about parts of the cow, like the heart, the kidneys, skin, leather. People a lot of times don't understand why that's so important. They would rather
basically get rid of the beef industry altogether. I've talked with people even at my school that would rather get rid of beef altogether rather than see what we're doing with our waste practices, whether that's manure or helping with the rendering industry and all the products that that goes to. So do you think that maybe in a sense we could also market our sustainability practices out to the public? That would be something that would well improve our reform.
That is exactly where I wanted to go next with this, because I think we are, and I love that, because I feel like there is an element to this question that we haven't touched on yet, and that's transparency and education. There's a clean labeling push right now. And so really and truthfully, as we're preparing products and we're creating our label, we have the opportunity to be as transparent and give those consumers a look into what we're doing on our farms for sustainability practices as much as we want to. With that, I think that we could even put this on the Farm Bureau level, because all Farm Bureau folks love a good challenge, right? So Farm Bureau does the Achievement Award, and there's other farm organizations that do awards to give back to farmers that are doing things to benefit the environment on their farm. So I wonder, could we make this some sort of a sustainability challenge for Georgia Farm Bureau? Not necessarily just for young farmers, but just across the state. If we put out maybe some requirements, or if you're doing X, Y, and Z on your farm and you continue to do that over the course of the year, then hey, we'll pay your registration and the convention of general.
I would love that idea, and I kind of want to mix that with what you were talking about earlier with the media. What if we were able to work with our media team into highlighting these people that are doing so well with their sustainability practices, that give our transparency, and they would give motivation for our other farmers and even ideas, really, because collaboration is a great way for people to realize, okay, that's something I could easily add into my farm and my operation and create a better outcome. So that might be something that would be a great way to highlight our farmers, but also highlight our sustainability practices and what we're for.
So, when you said that, and Heather, when you brought up, making this into a challenge, that brought me back to the signs that have Lucky the dog on them,
Yeah.
with the QR code that is now at any of the Georgia Growing buildings or any of the Georgia Growing produce stands, whatever it is. And those to me, when you click on that and you see it takes you to the Farm Bureau website. What if we were able, and this would be with our marketing team along with our partners, but if we were able to attach what you were saying about the media, put that with the QR code, then let it go to a video about how we're being sustainable. I come from showing dairy cattle. The dairy cattle industry gets a horrible reputation, and a lot of the public does not agree with the practices that are done. We have fought that view, as well as many other farmers have fought that view for centuries now. And, that's something that I think the education aspect, there's always an education aspect to everything we do as farmers. And, if we were able to tie in not only the education aspect, but also the challenge that you were discussing, if we were able to combine those two, then I feel like that would be a great way to not only get the public involved, because when they scan the QR codes, they'll be able to access those videos. It would educate the public, but it would also make other farmers be like, oh, they're on the website, I want to do that. So that brings more traction to their farm as well. Did you have a point to make on that?
Definitely on the marketing side with that, I think it's truly important that some of those points that we're being transparent about across industries that may get black eye. You talked about hand of rendering, that ends up being a very valuable byproduct when it's all said and done, but the envision from the public domain is not very positive. Georgia Farm Bureau working with some of these strategies on the education profile side, making it a contest. What I worry about on the contest side, truly, Heather, is some of those farmers and ranchers that we need to impact the most. When we get everybody here to Georgia Farm Bureau down in Jekyll Island, in most cases, how do we engage the people that don't come down here, who are maybe stuck on their farms, doing it for generations, but doing it sustainable, but maybe not for the sustainability that we talked about earlier on today? How do we touch those producers, education wise, marketing wise, and really drive that home for the Farm Bureau?
On that point, the one thing that we haven't really discussed is the price that comes along with a lot of these sustainable technologies. When we look at whether that be IPM with integrated pest management, whether that be the weather stations, some small farms can't afford to put that amount of money in at one time. And that brings us back to the first point, that sustainability doesn't look the same on every single farm. When we're sitting down here and we're talking to all of our young farmers, when they're starting an operation or when they're taking an operation that their grandfather had, then they may not have the capital at that point to do that. So I feel like Farm Bureau, whether that be through more grants, and I know there's already grants out there for sustainability. However, if we were able to provide more grants and also connect to those farmers, that could be through doing videos and posting them to the website. That could be through sending it to their local farm bureaus and letting them reach out to those farms. Or that could simply be us taking this information back. Use that grassroots model that Farm Bureau has. Take that information back to our local communities and then see where it goes from there. It's not just about what we come up with today. It is about us taking that back home and implementing that into our organization.
I really agree with that 100%. When you're talking about adding, finding ways for farmers to do this economically, I think I kind of want to piggyback on what is mentioned earlier, that we need to uplift the farmers and the operations that are doing this so well, because in the long run, it doesn't take a bunch of big changes. It takes a bunch of small, manageable changes that everyone's able to implement. And that's going to look different from farm to farm. So I agree with, I think really we need to focus on perhaps adding the media aspect of it, whether that's on the website or even short form videos like on TikTok or YouTube Reels, ways that people that would educate the public, people can look through it from no matter if they're Farm Bureau members or not. And it would give a platform for it that's larger than just our website in general.
Darren, I want to go back to something that you said, because I think it's a hot topic. As far as the farmers that aren't here, the ones that are not at convention, the ones that are at home. And you said the word stuck, and I know you didn't mean it in a negative way, but I think stuck on the farm is where they want to be. And I think that stuck with their nose to the grindstone is where they want to be. And I think that just giving them that hand to hold, that we got your back, you do you, we got you down here. And I think that goes a lot into the sustainability practices of a family farm. And I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity, but my in-laws are back at home working for us because we're here. But their investment in us being here is also our investment in our children being able to be here when we're at home 30 years from now. My 11-year-old told us right before we were about to leave that he didn't feel like he could leave his livestock with his grandparents because we had already done that last weekend. It's those little bitty things that show that sustainability practices, even as much as just training up a child, it's for the future. Those are decisions that we're making now that will impact the future. So Darren, I really appreciate you bringing up that point. One thing I want to talk about just slightly before we're done is maybe some research opportunities. USDA has invested over $46 million into a program called STAR, that's Sustainability and Agriculture Research Education. So that focuses on a completely different group of individuals. That goes directly into universities with grants and education. So I wonder if we could tweak that just ever so slightly to make it to where through our Georgia Foundation for Agriculture, we already give out scholarships for students that want to go into any sort of agriculture field, specifically that medicine or any animal science. I wonder if we could tweak that to where if there's somebody that wants to take a sustainable ag class, then maybe it's not a give it to them up front, but when you come back to us after you've completed this course, then Farm Bureau gives you a benefit for that. I don't know if there's a way that maybe we could tie in some education to that younger generation.
You know, you're talking about educating the younger generation. That makes me think of the ag classroom that's parked out front right now. You know, we had that ag classroom personally come to our elementary school. And seeing those kids' faces light up, they now understand where their food comes from. So if there was a way to get the Georgia Foundation of Agriculture involved, because they come to our state show with all the fairgoers, and that's a great education opportunity. So I feel like if we could include Georgia Foundation of Agriculture, maybe we could even get our UGA extension offices involved, then we would be able to educate everyone and kind of get to the point that you're discussing, you know, talk about sustainability, and then at that opportunity, whether that be at the fair or in the classroom, we could talk about that potential class that could be held. That could be on Zoom, that could be at your local agency, whatever it needs to be, whatever need that would have to fit.
I think that's a great way. We could also add some fundraising in aspects in that and help raise money for these, say we have scholarships for students to go to sustainable ag, or we have scholarships and grants for people who want to bring the mobile ag classroom to their schools. That might be something that we could do that would be reasonable.
Time has been called. Please prepare your closing statements. I ask that the audience remain silent for 1 minute to aid the competitors in their preparation. Please put down your pencils and in voluntary order, please stand and give your 1 minute closing statement.
What does the consumer want? Is it trendy? Is it profitable? Is it sustainable? We discussed today lots of ways that through incentives and funding and education, that GFB gives us the perfect platform. Whether or not any of these options we're talking about the future. We're talking about our children. We're talking about the next generation of ag. I've really enjoyed discussing this with you today, and I can't wait to see what we do on the local level to get this ball rolling.
Georgia Farm Bureau, as we stand here today, has something to look forward to and a clear message for sustainability, derives some pillars for everybody within the state to stand on. What does Georgia Farm Bureau stand for? Sustainable ag. Then from there, there's some strategic measures. Hannah talked about everything from marketing all the way to your experience. Heather, for those who don't or aren't able to make it to some of the conferences, how can they be impacted by Georgia Farm Bureau and sustain their continuous agricultural practices? And Tori, everything you described with your background, tying all the education components together. We have these things here today. To take it home, Georgia Farm Bureau needs people, invest in those people today, and sustainable ag to continue.
From education to marketing, from being on the farm to just sitting here at conference and convention today. All of us is who it is going to take to make a sustainable future. The future of society relies on the shoulders of all agriculturalists. And today we touched on so many ways that we can make a sustainable future. Farmers have already donated 140,000 acres of sustainable farmland. And today, these are just some more ways that farmers will be able to sustain for the future and meet the goals that 2050 and on may require.
What is sustainable agriculture? It's something that is different for every person we meet, every farm that we go to, every operation that works within our agricultural sector. We are in the most diverse sector in the entire world. And I think from us talking about the actual means of being able to have sustainable agriculture from an economic standpoint to educating our farmers and investing in our future agriculturalists and farmers, we have the ability through Georgia Farm Bureau to be able to push and elevate our next generation and the generations that we have now to do better in their own practices. And I've really enjoyed our discussion today about that.
Let's show these competitors our appreciation for a job well done.